In a sport synonymous with excess, where teenage millionaires blow fortunes on private jets and deprecating supercars, a shadow class of black superstars operates differently. From Olympic gold medalists building heart hospitals across Africa to Champions League winners who stopped a civil war, these are the 10 extremely rich black soccer players who famously live like they are poor. Number 10. Nwankwo Kanu, the man who built 5 hospitals because nobody built one for him. Born August 1, 1976, in Owerri, Nigeria, a boy from an Igbo family who made it to Ajax by 17 on talent alone, won the UEFA Champions League in 1995, then captained Nigeria to Olympic gold at the 1996 Atlanta Games, scoring twice in a comeback against Brazil that the country still talks about. Then, the world nearly took it all away. Inter Milan's medical check discovered a life-threatening heart defect, 8 months of surgery and uncertainty. Then, Arsenal. Arsène Wenger gave him a second life, and Kanu repaid it with 2 Premier League titles, 2 FA Cups, and one of the most beloved careers the Gunners have ever witnessed. His estimated net worth sits between $9 and $20 million, the most modest on this list. But his Kanu Heart Foundation, founded in 2000, has arranged for more than 530 children to receive open-heart surgery, spending $4.2 million on procedures for children who could not afford care. It has funded the construction of 5 hospitals across Africa for children with undetected cardiac disease. He is a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador and currently chairs Enyimba Football Club in Abia State. A man who survived a heart defect went home and built 5 hospitals for children who had not survived theirs. That is the receipt. And while Kanu turned personal tragedy into continental infrastructure, our next entry turned a childhood defined by loss into South London's most powerful act of ownership. Number 9. Wilfried Zaha, the boy from Croydon who bought his hometown. Born November 10, 1992, in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, the youngest of 8 children, his family moved to Thornton Heath, Croydon, when he was 4 years old. He grew up playing on South London streets, joined Crystal Palace's academy at 8, and by 19 was being named Football League Young Player of the Year twice. Manchester United paid £10 million for him in 2013. His time in Manchester was difficult. His return to Crystal Palace became the stuff of legend: 9 more seasons, 72 goals, and a status as a club icon that borders on the sacred. His estimated net worth is around $30 to $40 million, but the moves that define him happened off the pitch. He partnered with Stormzy to purchase AFC Croydon Athletic, buying back a club in the community where he grew up. Through Zoe Properties, his property company, he offered 50 London apartments to NHS workers free of charge during the COVID-19 pandemic. His foundation channels resources into youth opportunities in South London and the Ivory Coast. He did not forget where he came from. He bought it back. And while Zaha invested in his postcode, our next entry invested in an entire continent's future through sport. Number 8. Yaya Touré, the computer from Bouaké who powered the world's game. Born May 13, 1983, in Bouaké, Ivory Coast, a city scarred by civil war. He left at 13, traveled through Belgium, Ukraine, Greece, and France before Barcelona recognized what he was: one of the most physically dominant midfielders the game had ever seen. Manchester City paid €30 million for him in 2010, 3 Premier League titles, 4 consecutive African Player of the Year awards, 2011 through 2014, a 2015 Africa Cup of Nations title, captaining Ivory Coast. The man his manager called Coach, Lord Natur, the computer. His estimated net worth is $70 million, with a peak annual salary of $15 million. But the Touré that matters here negotiated his Puma sponsorship to include a clause directing part of his earnings towards supplying football boots to underprivileged children in West Africa. He became a United Nations Environment Program Goodwill Ambassador in 2013. He runs the Yaya Touré Young Leaders Program, an educational vehicle for young Africans aged 15 to 25. He redirected income through a contract clause. That is the architecture. And while Touré built wealth through midfield dominance, Our next entry converted the most iconic career in French football history into quiet, structural power. Number 7. Thierry Henry, the kid from Les Ulis who moves through the world like he still lives there. Born August 17, 1977, in Les Ulis, a banlieue housing estate south of Paris. His family was of Antillean heritage, part of the Caribbean immigrant community that built much of France's working class. He came up through Monaco's youth academy, went to Juventus, arrived at Arsenal in 1999 under Arsène Wenger, and became the most devastating striker the Premier League had seen in a generation. Twice named Football Writers Association Footballer of the Year, Arsenal's all-time top scorer, a 1998 World Cup champion with France. His estimated net worth is $130 million. He bought a Soho triplex in New York for $14.9 million. He became a minority owner of Italian club Como in 2022, specifically citing the club's commitment to ensuring that, as the club prospers, the local community does too. He serves as a UEFA and Arsenal ambassador. He coaches, he mentors. He appears on television without the armor of wealth direct, often blunt, refusing to perform a version of himself that does not feel true. He came from Les Ulis. He still thinks like someone from Les Ulis. And while Henry moves through ownership with quiet authority, our next entry converted a childhood marked by the worst possible loss into England's most powerful football conscience. Number 6. Raheem Sterling, the boy without a father who became English football's conscience. Born December 8, 1994, in Kingston, Jamaica, his father was murdered when Raheem was 2 years old. His mother brought him to Brent, northwest London, at 5. He joined Queen's Park Rangers Academy, then Liverpool's at 15, made his senior debut at 17, and by 2015 Manchester City paid £49 million for him. Peak earnings of £300,000 a week, estimated net worth around $120 million. Endorsements with Nike, New Balance, Apple, and Gillette. The number that matters most is not a salary figure. In 2018, Sterling publicly called out a British newspaper for framing black players' purchases as reckless while framing an identical purchase by a white player as wholesome ambition. He named it, he documented it, and the conversation in English football shifted. He has been a leading figure in anti-racism campaigns in the sport, working with organizations to change both individual attitudes and structural policies. He founded the Raheem Sterling Foundation for Youth Empowerment and Social Mobility. He invested in Oja, a digital supermarket for African and Caribbean products, Black economic infrastructure. He invested in StatSports, a GPS performance technology company. A boy who lost his father at 2 built a platform that forced a sport to look at itself. And while Sterling restructured a conversation, our next entry rebuilt an entire village from the ground up. Number 5. Sadio Mané, the man who built a town. Born April 10, 1992, in Bambali, Senegal, a village of approximately 2,000 people, 250 miles from Dakar. 70% of families in the region live in poverty. His father, the village imam, died when Sadio was 7 years old. Died in part because there was no hospital nearby. At 15, Sadio disobeyed his father's wishes and ran away to pursue football. Generation Foot noticed him. Metz signed him. RB Salzburg paid €4 million. Southampton, Liverpool. Bayern Munich, Al Nassr. A Champions League winner. A Premier League champion. The 2022 African Player of the Year. Net worth estimated around $52 million. Here is what he did with it. He built a school in Bambali, estimated cost $270,000, a hospital $530,000, a petrol station, a post office. He funded 4G internet for the village. He provides every family in Bambali with €70 per month. He bought a majority stake in Bourges Foot Dixhuit, a French football club, converting his salary into ownership. "Why would I want 10 Ferraris or 20 diamond watches?" he reportedly asked. "What will these objects do for me and for the world?" Bambali now has a hospital. And while Mané rebuilt a village, our next entry helped stop a war. Number 4. Didier Drogba, the man who brokered peace and built a gold mine. Born March 11, 1978, in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, he came up through the French system as a late bloomer, making his professional debut at 21. At Chelsea from 2004 to 2012, he became the most important goal scorer in the club's history. 4 Premier League titles, 4 FA Cups, and the defining moment, heading home an equalizer against Bayern Munich in the 92nd minute of the 2012 Champions League final, then scoring the winning penalty, Chelsea's greatest player. His estimated net worth is between $90 and $120 million. Peak annual salary, $15 million. He acquired a documented stake in the ET gold mine in western Ivory Coast, recorded in Endeavour Mining's investor materials. He became the first player-owner of a United States soccer club, Phoenix Rising FC, staking a position in American sports ownership before it was fashionable. The Didier Drogba Foundation, registered with the UK Charity Commission, has funded hospitals, schools, and healthcare access across the Ivory Coast and across the continent. And then the moment that transcends sport. In 2006, Ivory Coast qualified for the World Cup. The country was in the middle of a civil war. Drogba made a video, on his knees, begging the combatants to stop fighting, to honor the national team. The fighting paused. He pushed for a qualifying match for the Africa Cup of Nations to be hosted in Bouaké, a rebel-held city, and the gesture helped seed a ceasefire that eventually held. The United Nations Development Program appointed him a Goodwill Ambassador. He did not stop a war with a speech. He stopped it with the moral authority of a life lived for his people. And while Drogba converted fame into peace and equity, our next entry converted the world's highest salary into the infrastructure of a nation. Number 3. Samuel Eto'o, the most decorated African footballer of all time. Born March 10, 1981, in Douala, Cameroon. Raised in Mvogada, one of the most economically impoverished districts of Yaoundé, Cameroon's capital. He moved to Spain at 16 to join Real Madrid's youth system. It was at Mallorca that scouts noticed. Barcelona paid €24 million in 24, 2 Champions League titles with Barcelona, 3 La Liga titles, playing alongside Ronaldinho, Messi, and Xavi in one of football's all-time great attacking units. He won the African Player of the Year award 4 times. He won a treble with Inter Milan under Mourinho in 29 and 10. He is the most decorated African player in the history of the sport. Then came the contract that changed the ceiling. Anji Makachkala signed him in 2011 for €20 million per year after tax, the highest football salary on earth at that time, overtaking Cristiano Ronaldo. Estimated net worth, $95 million. The Samuel Eto'o Foundation has built schools and hospitals across the poverty-stricken regions of Cameroon, where he grew up, established medical clinics, and created football academies. He now serves as the president of the Cameroonian Football Federation, not just playing within the system, but governing it, building it from the inside. He is the most institutionally powerful African footballer alive. Number 1. Mohamed Salah, the pharaoh who never left his village. Born June 15, 1992, in Nagrig, a village in the Garbia Governorate of Egypt's Nile Delta, a 3-room house, a family of modest means. At 12 years old, he took 5 buses, 5 on a 4-hour round trip every single day to attend training at the Arab Contractors Club in Cairo. His first professional salary with El Mokaloun was reportedly 125 Egyptian pounds per month, roughly $3 American, $3 a month. Basel, Chelsea, where he did not get enough chances, Fiorentina on loan, Roma, where he became undeniable, Liverpool in 2017, where he became something else entirely. In his first full season at Anfield, he scored 32 league goals, breaking the record for a 38-game Premier League season. He won the Champions League with Liverpool in 2019. He won the Premier League in 2020. In April 2025, he became the highest-scoring foreign player in the entire history of the Premier League. His most recent contract at Liverpool reportedly reached £350,000 to £400,000 per week, the highest in the club's history. Estimated net worth from credible sources ranges between $90 and $140 million. Annual earnings from salary and endorsements. Adidas, Pepsi, Vodafone, Egypt, Oppo, DHL, ExxonMobil reportedly exceed $30 million per year. In 2021, he founded two UK-registered companies, Moss Real Estate and Salah UK Commercial, investing $12 million in English commercial property through Trinity Kensington. Not a mansion, not a supercar, a real estate company registered at Companies House with an appreciation curve tied to the London property market. He built a girls' school in Nagrig. He donated $2.5 million to a children's cancer hospital in Cairo. He funded a medical center in his hometown during the COVID-19 pandemic. He has financed food supplies and community initiatives throughout the Gambia Governorate. And then the number that belongs at the top. Researchers at Stanford University published a study documenting that Salah's arrival at Liverpool was associated with a 48% decrease in anti-Muslim hate crimes in Merseyside. Not a campaign. Not a foundation press release. Empirical data, peer-reviewed, documenting that a man being excellent, humble, and publicly himself measurably made a city safer. They called it the Salah effect. $3 a month, $140 million in estimated net worth, $12 million in UK commercial real estate, $2.5 million to a children's cancer hospital, a girls' school in Nagrig, a Stanford study, 5 buses every day at 12 years old. That is not a goal. That is a legacy. Let us go back to where we started. A man who built a hospital because his father died without one. A boy who purchased the football club in the neighborhood where he grew up. A midfielder who put a clause in his boot deal to fund West African children. A son of Les Ulis who moved into club ownership and cited community as the reason. A boy whose father was murdered at 2 who forced a sport to examine its own prejudice. A forward who turned his wages into a school, a hospital, a petrol station, and a monthly stipend for every family in a village of 2,000. A striker who stood on his knees and asked combatants to stop shooting. A champion who became the president of a federation. And a boy who took 5 buses every day to training and went on to reduce hate crimes in a city by simply being himself. This is what quiet black wealth looks like in the global game. Not always a super yacht or a chartered flight. Sometimes it looks like a cardiac ward in Owerri. Sometimes it looks like 50 free apartments for NHS workers in London. Sometimes it looks like a ceasefire. Sometimes it looks like a property company incorporated in the United Kingdom by a man from a Nile Delta village. Black generational wealth in football is not a moment. It is a decision made again and again to convert fame into infrastructure, salary into equity, platform into power that outlasts the final whistle. These men played football, the game they played off the pitch, ownership, legacy, community, permanence. That game is still in progress, and based on the receipts, they are winning. Which of these 10 stories moved you the most? Was it Drogba on his knees asking for a ceasefire? Was it Mané building an entire village's infrastructure from his wages? Was it Salah on 5 buses at 12 years old, who went on to inspire a Stanford research paper? Drop your answer in the comments right now. Subscribe and turn on notifications. We go deep on black wealth, power, and legacy every single week. See you on the next video.